I now give the floor to Mrs. Bechdol for her to Mrs. Beth Bechdol. I give the floor, madam.
Mr. President, members of the Security Council, thank you for inviting FAO to brief virtually on the deeply concerning situation in the Sudan. The latest reports on food security are the worst in the country's history. And before I share with you the discouraging details of the latest IPC report, let me remind Council members that over the last 15 years, only 4 famines have been confirmed. Somalia in 2011, South Sudan in 2017 and 2020, and now Sudan in 2024. And as we have learned from these extreme crises, tens of thousands of deaths have already occurred before any famine was classified. In August of last year, famine was classified in Zamzam camp in Sudan's North Darfur state, and it persists and it has expanded. The Independent Famine Review Committee concluded in late December that between October and November of 2024, famine conditions persisted in the Zamzam camp for IDPs and expanded to other sites in North Darfur, as well as to the western Nuba Mountains in South Kordofan state. And from last month until May of 2025, 5 additional areas are projected to face famine conditions, with a confirmed risk of famine in 17 more areas. The latest IPC analysis shows that half of the population, or nearly 25 million people, are facing acute food insecurity levels. This is 3.5 million more people since June of 2024. So today, 15.9 million people are in IPC 3, crisis, 8.1 million in IPC 4, emergency, and just over 637,000 in IPC 5, catastrophe. Conflict and forced displacement remain the primary drivers of this crisis, exacerbated by restricted humanitarian access. Sustained violence and economic turmoil have disrupted markets, displaced 11.5 million people, becoming the world's largest internal displacement crisis, and have also driven prices of staple goods to unaffordable levels. Nearly 2/3 of the Sudanese population depend on agriculture, and the primary crops grown in the country are sorghum, millet, and wheat. During the first year of the conflict, the 2023-24 season, production of these 3 crops was 4.1 million tons. But this was a 46% reduction from the previous year. This production loss could have fed approximately 18 million people for a single year, and also represented an economic loss somewhere between 1.3 and 1.7 billion US dollars. Production of other minor crops such as sesame, sunflowers, groundnuts, and cotton was well below average too. And the low availability and high prices of inputs also significantly impacted both planted and harvested areas, as well as yields. Then the 2023 rainy season was erratic, with dry spells reported in key producing areas, which further constrained and limited yields. And soon, harvest will begin for the 2024-2025 production season. Yet hunger and malnutrition are escalating when food availability should be at its highest. Conflict and mass displacement have resulted in abandoned or devastated farmland and infrastructure, significantly disrupting local food production. Mr. President, we must take urgent action to address the famine in Sudan. The UN Security Council has a critical role, reaffirmed through Resolution 2417. The risk of famine and its spread has been on our collective conscience since August, and now it is here, not only with people dying from hunger, but also with a breakdown of health systems, livelihoods, and social structures, leaving irreversible consequences that can last for generations. There are a few actions that deserve prioritizing and require your collective support. first, we need your political leverage to end hostilities and to bring relief to the people of Sudan. They urgently need food, water, shelter, medication, and life-saving emergency agricultural assistance, today and not tomorrow. Second, we echo the calls from our UN and other partners, including OCHA, WFP, and UNICEF, for immediate and unimpeded humanitarian access. It is crucial to safely reopen commercial supply routes to address current shortfalls in key hunger hotspots. And third, we need to deliver multi-sectoral humanitarian assistance. While scaling up food, water, and cash assistance is vital, this alone cannot address the full scope of the hunger crisis. Ensuring local production through emergency agricultural support is critical to building resilience and preventing further humanitarian catastrophe. When farmers can access land and inputs, they will produce food. Last year, FAO's agricultural interventions had an impact. Over 2.7 million people in 11 states received more than 5,000 tons of sorghum and millet seeds, with okra seeds prioritized for IDP camps. Nearly 600,000 agro-pastoral households benefited from livestock vaccinations, feed, and veterinary services to protect their animals, a vital source of nutrition and income. But challenges remain. Heightened security risks for transportation providers hinder access to vulnerable communities, and funding gaps remain misaligned with the agricultural calendar, limiting our ability to act at the most critical times. In this coming year, we aim to scale up our response to reach over 14 million people. They are farmers, livestock herders, and fishermen and women with the seeds, livestock feed, and fishing supplies they need to produce their own nutritious food. Emergency agricultural support in Sudan must be prioritized. No one affected by the conflict, whether they are in an IDP camp or in their home community, wants to depend on food aid. They want to provide for their families and reclaim their dignity. And delaying this support risks deepening food insecurity. And let's be honest, resources for traditional humanitarian responses are shrinking. Agricultural support is a cost-effective, sustainable way to meet immediate needs while helping rebuild. If we fail to act now collectively and at scale, millions of lives are even further at risk. And Mr. President, as you and council members know all too well, so is the stability of many nations in the region. Thank you for this opportunity to brief the council and reaffirm our organization's dedication to the people of Sudan.
I thank Mrs. Beshdol for her briefing